Oh, tengah main game lah. Suruh lah orang lain. Itulah kejap. Dia main lagi dulu. Mana siap? Dah, turun dah. Bye. Ha, lagi mana pula ni?
Keluar tak mak dengan kawan. Malaslah balik rumah. Dah lah panas. Bising kat tu.
This is a disclaimer. We're just acting in this video. So this is not our real behavior in the house and we still respect our parents. To explain this montage, actually it tells a story of a single mother that lived with 5 children in a small flat. Okay, a small space caused discomfort to everyone in the house. And the situation also raised various other issues. Alright, now let me introduce me and my teammates. My name is Dzulaikha Dzahar and I'm here to serve as your host, assisted by host Ainul Hayat.
Hello everyone.
Following that are moderators Hana Atirah,
Hi.
Siti Julaiha,
Hello everyone. I'm Julaiha.
and Syahirah.
Hi, good morning everyone. I am Syasya.
As well as our technical Afiq Nain,
Sekejap.
and Nadira.
Hi.
Okay, guys, actually our group had prepared an introduction video of our group. So can our technician start sharing it? I hope you guys will enjoy it.
So, aren't you guys curious about our panel speaker for today? Don't worry, we have prepared a video that we have made to introduce our panel speaker, Dr. Hana. Dr. Rohana Arifin is a former associate professor at the University of Science Malaysia. She started her first teaching profession at the University of Technology Malaysia in 1975 and then later moved to University of Science Malaysia in 1983. Her research interests mainly focus on social science studies focusing on domestic violence, women's rights, workers' rights, and the duty of work trade union. During her service, she was actively involved in discourses of political and social concerns in a magazine known as Nadi Insan. Dr. Rohana was also actively involved with the Women Crisis Center from 1974 to 1989 and served as the president and committee member. During her time in the Crisis Center, she was active in creating awareness on violence against women and was actively invited to give speeches and talks on women's rights. In 1982, the All Women's Action Society, or better known as AWAM, based in Kuala Lumpur, proposed a cooperation with Dr. Rohana to set up another center in Penang in effort to mitigate cases on violence against women, rape crime, and unreported cases which was becoming more serious at the time. Dr. Rohana and her two acquaintances of similar passion then worked together to set up the Women Crisis Center, or also known as WCC. In 1984, Dr. Rohana was also involved in proposing the Domestic Violence Act, which did not exist at that time. The act was later realized after 10 years in 1994. Apart from speaking on women's rights, workers' rights, and the duty of work union, she is also active in a volunteer organization known as Service Civil International. Dr. Rohana became an activist because she believed she could learn and practice theories such as union, labor, left and right theory more effectively. Dr. Rohana enjoys reading since her young age and used her pocket money to buy her favorite comic during her schooling years. Her love in reading began with detective genre and her favorite author was Agatha Christie. As she grows older, she began reading on forensic types of literature such as DNA. She later became passionate in reading on philosophy and feminist type of literature by authors such as Alexander Kollontai and Nawal El-Saadawi. Apart from reading, she also loves playing hockey and tennis during her leisure time.
Wow.
What a lovely.
Impressive. What an impressive background, Dr. Hana. So let us please welcome you to our program today. Thank you for being with us all the way from Melbourne. Yeah, Dr. Hana, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. So did we do you justice with the background, Dr. Hana?
I think there's a lot to cover there. At my age, I'm sure there are a lot of things to cover.
Right. So
All
maybe
right.
you can share with us a little bit. What do you now focus on?
Now I'm in the Service Civil International. As you can see the last slide, there they asked me to be the education moderator. So because of the COVID in a couple of years ago, we couldn't hold any forum face-to-face because we prefer face-to-face. So
Right.
this year onwards, we will be holding some forums about youth development, empowerment of youth, gender equality and all that. And they expect me to organize it. So I don't think there'll be a problem because we have lots and lots of speakers in Penang itself,
Right.
from the NGO and from the university. So I may be actively involved in organizing talks and forums.
So our topic today must be matching to your current interest in social development, yeah, doctor.
Yes,
Hopefully.
yes. But yes, I would like to introduce some sociological concept also to the students here,
Yeah.
because I think it's very useful for them to understand what has been written before about this space and development.
How do you find the montage earlier that was put together by
Yeah,
the student host?
yeah, they're very good in all this. And one day I must employ them to help me with my with my photo.
Betul.
Boleh.
Yeah, they really took the effort to try and
Very,
understand their topic concept, you know. So I think it's impressive.
very impressive. Yeah, very good. Keep it up.
Yeah, so let's begin with our session. Let's welcome the moderators. Thank you, host, and thank you, Afiq, for the prayers recital earlier, and the host for hosting the opening. Yeah, so let's pass the session to our moderators. Can we bring them on?
Moderators, the stage is yours.
Syasya can start now.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone and good afternoon to Dr. Hana. So first, thank you to Madam Aswin and thank you to our pretty host for smooth hosting. I am Syasya. So first of all, we want to tell you guys that we choose this topic is because of Madam Azim's idea. That she said she had discussed this topic with Dr. Hana before. It is an interesting idea that it is connected with our daily life, but we are not realizing and thinking deeply about it. So we think it is important to bring this topic forward into discussion and make a point of how our future ahead of us need to be changed or improved for a better outcomes. Therefore, Doctor, my first question perhaps we can hear your perspective on the significance of personal space in our life.
I have your first question here. It's about personal space in one's life. I think it's very important if you look at the various stages of development, especially now, you guys are, I could say young adults, and most in the 20s, right? You're in your 20s. But you have undergone that period of childhood. You have undergone a period of adolescent, early adolescent, middle adolescent, and late adolescent. Some of you are still in that stage. So you find that all these stages, you need a lot of space, a personal space for you to develop your cognitive development, your social development, your emotional development as well. So it's very important. Maybe people don't think, they say, apalah, you know, as you're growing up, anything can. You can grow up. Budak-budak ni biarkan aja they grow up. I know.
Yeah.
You can grow up physically, but emotionally and psychologically, you'll be affected by the space that you grow up in, as well as your surroundings. So I'm glad in the montage just now, you brought out your personal space in the house, you have to sit down and dipakain and all that. And then you also brought out the environment outside, that you come back with your boyfriend and then it's very dark outside there, you know. And I see the environment is not very conducive for growing children. So all of you have undergone this phase of your life. And I hope that in the future, we can make it better, because I have some proposal with me as well.
Right. Yeah. Syasya, anything you want to add?
Yes, I understand what Doctor said, because I discovered one studies that they say youth need their own space, even though in the community, like different space between children, elders, and youth. So in context of housing, low cost housing, so they usually provide a common space only, where they share only same space shared by all. So but in order to manage youth behavior, they need appropriate outdoor activities, outdoor facilities to enhance your quality of life, right, Doctor?
True.
So what do you think about the low cost development?
Yeah, I agree. You see, the development has been determined by the type of government and the system that we have, okay, in Malaysia. Because you cannot run away from the political system, the economy development, that is determined by people in politics. So for them at that time, after Raza and all that, we wanted to develop our society. Okay, but the problem of our development, maybe the government at that time has less money. So what they do, they want to provide low-cost housing and do not want Malaysians to live in squatters like what's happening in India. Okay, so they have this development program, but I think they forget the fact that when you provide housing for development, you must provide a decent housing. Otherwise, the future generation will be affected by this very enclosed space, very little space for recreation, no parks around, no greenery around. So this is already a foregone case, but I still think we should criticize it. For instance, in Raffle Range in Penang and the Keliling flats, which now has been robo, I think. If you look at them, it's not meant for human development at all. It's not meant for you to live because it's 650 square feet. Can you imagine in a small little room for yourself, studio flat is fine.
Right.
But you have 3-4 children, and how do you cope with and you have boys and girls. So are you going to put all the boys and girls in one room?
Right.
And the
boy will sleep in the living room alone.
Yeah. So you see, in terms of future development, I think what the developer should, what the government should do, and the developer should also understand that this has created a lot of social and emotional and psychological problem among the youth. So if you want to re-educate the youth now, maybe it's not that late, but it's a bit late because a lot of psychology and subconsciousness have been integrated with what you have experienced in your youth.
Right.
So what I suggest in the near future is, even though you have a low-cost housing, you should have more space, maybe 1,000 something square feet, with at least one room for the girls, one room for the boys, one room for for the parents, and another room maybe for your aged parents. Because a lot of Malaysians don't want to put their parents in the old folks' home because the old folks' home are quite terrible. I've seen a lot of them. It's quite terrible. Please don't put me there next time, please. I rather stay.
We are pretty aware. We're quite aware with some conditions in different countries, yeah.
That's right.
Where they have very limited space, like Singapore or maybe Hong Kong, where they go higher up, they go, all the buildings are all built very high, yeah. And then they started introducing this one child policy, two child policy. Instead of giving a bigger space to family, they introduce this kind of policy.
I agree.
Do you think this is an alternative?
But on the other hand, I think the family should also be controlled, like if you take 1970s figure, 1980s, and now 10 decades later, we have now the normal family, according to the statistics, is 2.3 or something, let me see, 3.2. 3.2.
3.2.
3.2 per family, which is not representative
3.2 members only.
This is an average. So for the Malays, it's not 3.2. I think it's about 5.
Right.
For the non-Malays, it's only two children.
Right.
For the Chinese and Indian, 2 children. So if you look from 1980 to now, you find that the population of Chinese have dropped percentage-wise, but of course the number has increased from 3 to 5 million. But for the Malays, the number and the percentage have increased tremendously. This is because they scared the Malays be wiped out, all this kind of the Malays can be wiped out. I don't know where they're going to go. And then the Indians was there too. So because of this political nature of our argument, we find that the Malays are now in a very difficult situation.
Right.
Because living in a low-cost flat with 5 children, and also a husband, wife, and maybe old mother, old stepmother, or in-law and all, it causes a lot of stress, So you find that domestic violence during the time of COVID, you find that it has increased tremendously. So you don't just say people must learn to control your temper, don't learn this one, talk in a Doraemon voice and all this. It doesn't work. What you should see is the factors that have led to this kind of stress. So if the mother and father is stressful and the father beats the mother, it has an effect on the children.
Right.
You know, how do you like to see violence committed in your own home and you are a child and you can't do anything? So have you ever thought how a child of 5 years old witnessing the father beating the mother, which the other way around is very sad.
Doctor, are we suggesting that having this limited space is causing more abusive parenting, doctor?
I think it's one of the main factor. It's one of the main factor that cause all this. So as you said just now, you said that in other countries things have been taken to a different light. I agree. If you look at European countries, I'm not saying that this the Muslim have this concept that as long as European is bad idea, you know. But if you look at the way they live, you know, like Denmark, Sweden, you know, New Zealand and all that.
Right.
They have given you a house, mostly, you know, before the migrants come here, they have given you a house with a yard and all that. And I see their life is very peaceful, enjoyable. And then they have parks everywhere. So you
Right.
see, even in Denmark now, they have kindergartens in the forest. And in Japan, they have kindergartens with a lot of greenery. Why don't we have this in Malaysia?
Right.
In
Yes,
Malaysia, we have a lot
doctor.
of greenery, you
Why?
know?
Is this because of the developers' perception, maybe? Because
Yes, I agree with you. The developer perception is how to make
perception.
money, my dear.
Right, right.
Yes, true.
That's where I was going, doctor.
Huh?
With the increasing cost on housing and land today,
They only want to
how
make money.
how can we look at improving the condition, doctor?
Because you want to develop the space within the same small space. There are a lot of space in Malaysia, actually, you know. Instead, like if you develop things in Kuantan, you must develop in town. Why don't you develop in the suburban areas like Penang? Now, if you look at Penang itself, the developers have a lot of say. So all the buildings are going up and up and up the sky, 33 story and all that. And these houses are very expensive. It's not meant for local populace on the island. It's meant for investors from abroad. So you got a lot of investment from abroad and people are very proud that we're making money. But how do you see in terms of human development?
Right.
How do you see in terms of the majority of the people? I don't care about the rich. The rich are about 10%, you know.
Right.
I'm talking about the lower middle class and the bottom 40. So where are they going to go with this kind of situation? And if you look at a lot of the houses, low-cost flats here, and also in KL, they don't even have a balcony. Do you know that? So if you're stuck in this house within the four walls of this small little space, you can't even have a balcony. Tell me, if you leave a cat in a cage for a long time, what do you think? The cat become cracko, you know, psycho.
So doctor, interesting you mentioned just now, macam you agreed with Syasya on the fact that, you know, developers are not responsible enough to consider some of the factors that is important in
Some developers
providing a comfort home. But with so much being done, you know, studies to prove that, you know, certain sizes or spaces are important for our development, who can we refer to in order to ensure that these are, you know, being implemented adequately?
Let's take Libya under Gaddafi. Many of you maybe should read on him, you know.
Right.
He's a socialist, has a socialist band. I know because he followed Lenin and the Green Book, I know. And if you go and visit Libya at that time, he provided for the people a big flat, you know, because, you know, in the desert, I think it's a bit hard to develop everywhere. So in the township, he developed apartments, okay, for his people. The apartment are big. I don't know, I mean, 1,000 or 2,000 square feet. First, you enter, you have a family room. You receive the guests. And then you go in, there is the dining place. And then you have the kitchen. And at the back, there is also another place for the family to relax. So he provide this for his people. And also there are some green parks and the sea, you know, the Tripoli and all that. So
Right.
this is one example of Islamic country which have got rid off by the Americans now.
So in Libya, they actually subsidize the spaces for the local people, right?
Yeah, not only subsidize, even the government buys and give them.
Right.
Because the government income tax on the oil tax are given back to the people, like in the Western countries like Australia, New Zealand, and all that, they tax you highly. But the money goes back to the MPP, MBPP, and the collection and all that. I think with the income tax, we can provide better. But we must also have a strong control over developers because, as you say, the developer, their main interest is make money. Okay, make money, but please, you can reduce your profit. There's nothing wrong in reducing from 5 billion to 3 million. You know, you still can live, you know. I've been telling the developer, you can, you know. So don't worry so much about losing your money. But how can I tell the developer? But I want to tell you a theory also that you might find useful.
Yes.
Early countries in the 18th, 19th century have come up with this theory of Gesellschaft and Gemeinschaft. Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft by hang on.
Can you say that again, Doctor?
By Ferdinand Tonnes. He's a German sociologist in 1887. He talks about Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. And this concept, I'll text to Afiq later on the name. Okay. And then it's followed by Max Weber. So this question, okay, about society and development, economic development and society has been discussed since the 19th century.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So the space and all that are taken up by some of the Mat Saleh lah, developer and and all that. But Malaysia, we still discuss like, apa nak buat nasib, dapat rumah pun jadilah. You know, so we are like that. So we may
selalu macam tu. Asal dapat murah.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I can't blame the people because they have no money, you know. They have no money to buy better housing, kan. So what can you do? And then, sorry.
Okay, Doctor. Since you tell us that rumah yang ada kat sini kan, macam mana environment apa semua, structure rumah tu, can you tell us what define a good home structure to give the benefits to youth development?
I don't know, if you look at many of the housing now, the newer housing, I don't know whether they set up a park there, a small little park, which is better maintained by the MBPP or the community themselves, you know, like the resident association maintain a park for the youth and the children to play, you know. The youth can play their football or netball or whatever, which is very, very important. I think games and external activities will improve a person's character as well. Because in sports, you learn to be to give and take, right? And then also for the children to play in the park to develop their cognitive development, to develop their skills, and also, you know, when they fall down, they develop their. So there are ways to improve the surrounding area, but when we suggest this, a lot of the developers and state governments say, oh, this costs money, you know, this costs money, this costs money. Of course, you have to spend money on the people. You want a better society. But then we have also the conservative who say, oh, park ni tak boleh lah. Besok orang datang buat asmara. Dekat park.
Oh my God, we have this issue a lot, Doctor. No, the thing is, people already have this mindset. You know, it's so weird. I mean, when I was in Shah Alam several years ago, there were like, you know, all these jais everywhere in the park, assuming that people are doing bad things, you know, instead of creating this, you know, like positive things about these parks. They were there just to catch people, you know. So I don't know.
I don't know how do you change their mindset because we cannot create park without seats, you know. We need seats there for the older people to sit down, for the youth to sit down, you know, and read a book or something, and I have a shade. So I think the youth have to speak up.
But Doctor, I was very intrigued to know about the theory you mentioned earlier. So actually, what does the theory suggest in those countries that applied it in terms of social behavior?
Okay, this Gemen Shelf is actually when in a society that is traditional, like in a kampung here. Okay, people listen. People have conventional relationship, like they have certain morals, they have certain cooperation with other people,
Right.
kan? Macam kita sekarang lah, we are in the process of transition, kan? So we tend to be conformists, we tend to listen to our parents and all that kind of quite traditional values. But when society become industrialized, it moves to the town, it's called gazelle shaft, you know. So society has begun to organize on a very individualistic basis. So houses are provided for the workers, which it was very bad condition during the Industrial Revolution, before you know, before the British come to overseas and all that. And you find that in a gazelle shaft society, people become very individualistic. It's me. I have to support my family because my grandparents are not here to take care of my children. So I have to support myself. And then I must save for my rainy day. I must buy a house. And then the children are then at that time, they also have to work in the factory. But eventually, with the struggle of the people, then kindergartens are provided. So everything is become an individualized family. And this individualized family, this is what we are talking about now. How do we provide good facilities so that they're not cut off from communal interaction, cooperation, the spirit of cooperation, the spirit of thinking about others, you know, which I think a lot of Malaysians still have. You know, Malaysians are very generous and all that. I'm still glad that we have those values in spite of our changing to a more modern society.
Individualistic, society.
Yeah,
in terms of individualistic concept, like what some countries are applying into urban living, do you see how far do you see that happening in Malaysia?
I think it's becoming more and more now, you know, like now we are even supplemented with the social media, yeah? A lot of you young people in the Facebook, in the Snapchat, and that. Very individualistic. What you cook for the breakfast today.
But which one do you see more in terms of that between Penang and Kuala Lumpur, Doctor?
Penang and Kuala Lumpur. Well, we have a different racial disparity, you know. Kuala Lumpur, it depends on which area you're saying. Are you saying Kampung Baru or Shah Alam or in Penang, on the island itself, 70% are Chinese. Okay. Only on the mainland, where Anwar and gang and all that come from, there are more Malays there because the houses there are cheaper and the land is bigger. So the Malays tend to move out of the urban areas due to their financial constraints. And the Chinese are sorry.
You know how some urban sites here, Doctor, they are built in a way that they become economic site, like how do I say this, business sites. But in some metropolitan cities in the world today, they incorporate residential now, but I don't really see much of that happening in our cities. Like Singapore, like, you know, in Orchard, you actually have people living in Orchard and doing businesses as well. But in Malaysia, I think most of the time we see, of course, in KLCC area, we are seeing some residential, but very high-end residential life living there. But in areas like, you know, Jalan Tongko Duraman, is mainly focusing on more business-like activities there. So what is your perspective on having residential, you know, or having life in urban settings such as this?
Yeah, I think it's fine. If you have a business and you live in the shop upstairs, it's fine, you know, space and all that. Provided I feel that wherever you're living, please ensure that you are within a short distance of the sea, of the hills, of the forest, of the garden. You know, this is very important for your development. Whether you are
healing,
yeah, it's very healing. It's very healing for you at this age. You know, you're in ITM and all that. When you come out, you know, then you go to the seaside. It's very, very important. People I think Malaysians have this thing about places. You know, if you go to the park, you're supposed to kalwat. You know, kalwat. And if you go to the seaside,
No, please.
you go to the seaside, you have to be very careful. You know, you cannot wear shorts and t-shirt because this is very indecent, pula. So we have all the facilities. We have a lot of facilities because we come from a tropical country, because we are living in a peninsula. We have a lot of sea, we have a lot of forests, we have a lot of nice places, except in the development area, we don't have the park and all that.
Okay, tadi kita cakap pasal rumah yang nampak pemandangan, even macam boleh lah kalau kita cakap rumah tu kecil sikit, tapi bila pemandangan dia okey, macam healing, Madam kata tadi tu, okey. Tapi student, dia banyak habiskan, meluangkan masa time belajar kan. So, college sendiri macam ni kisah
our college condition.
our college condition that place in one house 10 people, will 10% in one house. So itu sebab kita ambil college sebab murah, sebab macam untuk kita orang punya kemudahan and dekat kita orang punya exit schools dekat lah kan, nak sampai ke UiTM ni. Jadi kita orang ada choice ke untuk macam duduk luar pun jauh pula. Macam kita orang ada choice ke untuk fix kita orang punya macam life condition macam tu.
Dekat UiTM dekat sana tak ada park nearby or anything nearby there. You organize some kind of trekking, tak ada. Is there no outside activities?
Oh yeah, they do. They have all. They are by the Sungai Melaka, doctor.
Oh, that's nice.
The river cruise, healing time.
Then it should be okay, I think.
Right.
You study and then you have the library facilities and it's quite cheap. I can understand, you know, your students. So weekend you should go to the outside to the river, either to swim. I don't go and commit suicide.
Bila stress dia, kita orang keluar lah.
So how do you what are the outcome, if you could, you know, share, like of living in spaces that's not conducive, you know, to us over a long period of time?
Yeah, I mean, when you say us, what age group are you meaning? Because the spaces have different implication on different age group. For instance, if you are a child, you are growing up, your cognitive development is still developing into adolescence. You find that they say that the cognitive development is slower because you don't have much stimulation. You don't have much stimulation, and then your social outside, you know, how you view outside. So you have a park, then you mix with others. So, and also their interest in studies, like during the COVID, you have to go through the net, right? Through the computer, and many of the youth in the rural, in the B40, sometimes they don't have Wi-Fi in their apartment, you know.
Right.
And also, yeah, they have to share one laptop or with four other children, you know, and the school and all that. So I think the government, I hope, is more aware now, and they're giving away laptop and all that, and especially before the election. It's okay, it's fine, but you still take the laptop. But the space of the students when they read, kan, macam kalau you stay at home, you have only one room and, you know, very noisy. After the lecture online, how do you read? How do you ever get to a book and read? Unless, of course, you go to the park and read. But then in Malaysia, if you get seen carrying a book to the park, people think you're not very polite.
Yeah, this is so true. Oh my God. Like, how do we change this mentality? That's a very interesting perspective.
But you can try. You can start. You are very young. You are in your 20s. You can continue to struggle. You know.
Yeah.
Give up in your
Guys,
struggle.
go lepak in Kelebang and bring my textbook. Go.
Sure, madam, sure.
It's a good idea, but you can also read novels and detective stories and all that, you know.
Oh, there you go. Okay lah, don't take my textbook lah.
I'm sorry, doctor.
Yeah.
So do you think because of we have been living in this kind of situation, right, like a lack of personal space, so we grow up to have that stigma, even though diberi college kecil pun, we have to be okay with it sebab dekat rumah dah terbiasa macam tu, dah diajar. Jadi kita orang sebagai new generation ni menjadi generation yang menerima sahaja. Do you think that this environment has to do something with our mindset?
Yeah, because of your earlier environment, you get used to a small space because as a child, what can you suggest? What other alternative have you got? You don't have an alternative, right? So, okay, fine. You begin to accept things which are not up to standard. You begin to accept small space. You begin to accept the fact that you have not gone out to the park. You begin to accept the fact people tell you what to do, how to dress and all that. But now you are an age where you're going to work soon, right?
Yes.
Hopefully all of you pass the exam. I'm sure you pass. And you're coming out. So you must make your voice heard. Not as American style where you go individually and say you want to do this, you run with the flag. No. What you should do, you have a small collective. All of you, after this, combine together as a former UITM students, or you can combine with the place that you work and create an interest group. We can start a reading club, you can start a trekking club, but all this, you must make it known to those in government that these are very important activities and needs for the youth. Because you are lucky in some way, because you are now you're a college student. How about students who doesn't make it to even to trade school? So you have to think of other students and other people of your age group that might need a betterment of their life.
Doctor, I think they already have the society of youth university student that combine to kumpul sama-sama, and they already create their committee lah. Even with different university aware about this topic yet, about personal space. Maybe the what is it? The halangan dia mereka untuk mengetengahkan isu ni. So if we already have the channel.
So do you go to the social media to bring out all these points of view that you have? I mean, you are very good in social media. I know what kind of web you have. So it's just instead of talking about what you cook and what you do for holiday, I think sometimes you can form many network in which you can bring up issues like this, and then of course don't bring it among yourself. Post it to your member of parliament, post it to your don, because practically some of them have nothing much to do, because I've seen some of the don in my area. So you should go in fact, when they become don or MP, it's quite difficult to see them, by appointments and all that. But they are appointed by you. So whatever in the social media you are given, take the memorandum, go into the office or post it online to them and wait for 1 month. If they don't reply, you pressure them again. That is how you get things going, in the Western country as well. So don't just wait. Be proactive, especially to the political people.
By the use of social media, so kita dapat tahu yang orang-orang yang duduk satu rumah ramai orang ni, dia orang start to share things macam sexual harassment among the family. So that I think that is one of the way dia orang share undesired sexual harassment. So what is your opinion about this lack of space, privacy with this undesired sexual behavior inside the house?
Very important about spaces between the sexes, because if you see in housing development, very little space and so many people there, and I mean, it's quite difficult for girls to, as they grow up, to change and all that kind of thing, bathroom, all that kind, sharing bathroom. But do you know in the Felda scheme before, are you aware of Felda? rural
Yes.
development,
Yes.
and in the kampong with small spaces, there is a high rate of incest, incest. You know
Yes.
what incest?
Yes.
That is, the father,
Yes.
yeah, the father committing sexual crime against the daughter. Would you believe it? I mean, we did the study, we were quite shocked. How come this happens in the rural area? But they say it's limited space. Okay, fine. Limited space. This is one of the argument by the men. This one in the prison, we asked them, we went to the prison. Why do you molest your own daughter? Usually the father is the highest number, followed by the stepfather, followed by the grandfather, in that order. Okay, so we asked the father, why do you tergamak buat anak sendiri begitu? You know what they say? They said, oh, I said, why don't you go to sex worker? I mean, it's not Islamic to suggest that, but I said, better than raping your own daughter. He said, sex worker ni kotor tau, it's dirty lah, used by other people as well. Do you believe that? Other women are dirty. So your own daughter, you can do it, And then,
oh my.
Yeah, this is the reason they give. And then some of the grandfathers, they take their granddaughter to the oil palm or rubber estate, and the child is only about 10 or 11, and they rape them in the estate. These are true stories. I'm telling you, these are true stories. And then we ask grandfather, why you do this, Of course, you feel like slapping them. Then I say, oh, ini kami, one of the main reason they say is, kami punya anak, suka hati kami lah.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Yes, doctor. Okay, doctor. In terms of a healthy space, it's important to design a home that accommodate family members in order to establish a healthy space. Do you think our home in general meet the basic requirement for a healthy growth?
Depends on which class you are from. If you are from the B40, I think you need a lot more space and more segregated space for boys and girls, for sons and daughters. Yes. But if you are middle class, the houses are a bit bigger, link houses and all that. That is better, but then not everybody can become middle class, right? Yes. So now the concentration should be on the working class.
In terms of gender, who do you think need more personal space, male or female?
I think both need personal space. Female maybe in terms of their body, when they go to the bathroom and all that. But boys too, they need personal space for them to think, and to read and to play their games and all that, So I think for children, they do need a personal space at whatever age group you are. So the concentration in the future development should be giving proper spaces by gender, by age, and by salary to the working class, to the bottom 40. I think it's very important. Don't just build houses and say, oh, I build houses for my country, like, oh, I'm in Selangor, the MB of Selangor say, I've already built. It's like, oh, it's no longer my concern.
Dah build, dah lah.
Udah ada, dah lah, apa complain lagi.
Right.
You can't take it. Because you are the leader, you have to be responsible to your people. So this is what a proper leader should be. I think whatever you do, you are, especially if you're a leader, you are responsible to your rakyat. This is how I feel,
As you mentioned, B40, this include from low income. A study report that many children from low income area involved in crime and social problems such as drug, police, robber, and others. Yes. In general, low-income family has more children but less ability to provide comfort space for children groups. What is your perspective on this, doctor?
Yeah, if you look at the detention center, prisons, and all that, it's always populated with those from the working class, from the B40. While the middle class, they have scam, punya crime lah, white collar crime, But for the B40 and those living in apartments, you find that a lot of their relatives are involved in drugs. You see, involved in drugs. They're not supplier. Even if they're supplier, they're a small amount of supply, the big ones are never caught. These people from the very low cost house and with limited space and all that, and as you become adolescents, you have a raging needs, you know, you get angry, you're looking for your identity and all that. So you tend to mix with your friend. The peer group is very important in your growing years, right? What people think of me, how I dress, how people condemn me, that kind of thing. When you're old, you don't really care very much, you know. But at that age group, so they mix with their peer. And their peer are those mak rempit, they would like to go racing. So if you're left out, they say, janganlah macam perempuan tak guna. And then it starts smoking pip, you know, they call it pip.
Right.
If tak apalah, try lah. Then they feel they get high. Then they feel happy. You see, it's the peer group that comes into contact now. So, and then malam-malam, they feel so restless, they go cycling in Johor. You see what happened?
Yes.
And the parents are not there. Yes, and then the parents are working in the factory. Do you know that? Let me give you an example, Binay. The factory workers are now staying Seberang already across. So they go to the bus stop in Seberang, say around 6:30 to 7 to come across to the Penang Island where most of the factories are located. So you imagine, you leave your house. I don't know where you leave your children. At 6:30 in the morning, you leave your house. Maybe you prepare some breakfast or lock the house or whatever. And then you come across to the island. Then you work for 8 hours or 12 hours.
Right.
And then you take back the bus at Seberang around 6, 7.
Right.
And then you go to your house by 8. Okay, you just imagine the kind of life the factory worker has and the kind of life that the children have. Who will guide the children in proper values? I mean, proper values, okay? Who will guide the children or comfort the children when they're sad or they get bullied at school? Who will comfort the children when the teachers abuse them? Not physically abuse, verbally, you know. So these are the things that children of Malaysia are experiencing. That's why we have a lot of social issues with children, social issues, social issues with youth. We have drugs problem. The drug problem can be reduced, I'm sure.
Doctor,
if
when we talk about space, earlier you mentioned, you know, now that we have social media, these are becoming new space for us to build our individuality or something, you know. But I'm also interested to see how schools are designed to give comfort to children and students, where they can actually seek to expose or express themselves better, you know. So schools, like for example, I was back in the States, let's talk a little bit about that, how they design school is that the children sometimes, you know, they go to school and they probably show lack of interest in being in the classroom, but they provide other spaces for the children to relax, you know, like get back to their interest, you know. They provide lounges for them. They provide even dia panggil like a room where they can just chill, you know. Schools actually do that.
Club room.
How important do you think for our schools to consider these elements in order to give alternatives to children growing up other than their own personal space at home?
Yeah, true. The school, the parenting and the school space and external space are very important for children development. Not all children will dutifully go to school. Some will find it very boring, you know, like so I see overseas the school finish at 3, mostly at 3 o'clock.
Yes.
Finish at 3. So after the proper academic classes that they have, after 1 o'clock they have their lunch. Either at the canteen or they bring their own food. There you can bring your own food. There's nothing ashamed of it. You know, you bring your own food, sandwich and all that. And from 2, 3, you can do your homework in school, or you can take music, guitar, you know, or you can do singing lessons, or you can go and play in the court there, you know. So the children have a more holistic development.
I can't help but notice when that most of these small spaces homes, they tend to clutter things more easier.
Okay.
You know, and the small space becomes smaller, in fact. So how does like for example in Japan, yeah, the way they build their homes, they have small houses,
Very
but
small.
they are taught since kids to not clutter, you know. They are taught even in their schools as young as 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
The classroom is empty. There's no tables, you know, they sit on the floors, they clean, you know, they help clean. And most of these houses that dah lah they clutter in our area, but they are dirty also. So this behavior continues on as they grow. So they become individuals who are not hygiene enough, you know, in terms of spaces, taking care of their own spaces. How can we improve this condition, doctor, in school?
Okay.
Do we really need to go back to school?
I know you're talking about Japanese. How many children do Japanese people have? Tell me first.
Right. 1 or 2.
1 or 2 now, right? 1 or 2.
Yeah.
We still, among the Malays, we have a lot. I'm not saying that we become hoarders lah. Kita semua kita nak simpan kan. I mean, many of us are guilty of that as well. You know, nak buang ni sayang, nak buang ni adalah sentimental value, you know. I mean, even in our phone, we have tons of pictures there, right? So we tend to hoard a lot of things because we are quite sentimental about it. But I think you're right. We have to find a middle way now. How do we have 5 children in a house with a limited space, with tons of things? How do we get rid of some and maintain some, which is very important to them? You cannot throw their things away from them. They get very upset, you know. And remember, so you have to ask them, okay, now you have 10 things here. Do you want to get rid of 5, please? And then they said, I cannot get rid. Then, but they keep on buying things, right? So let's say you buy 3 things, you have to get rid of at least 3 things, right? Then it won't accumulate.
Right.
But depending on the child's age, I think. But this hoarding problem, I think, it's everywhere except Japan. I've read the book. I've read the book on minimalists and all that.
Yeah.
But I think that is certain age group you can do it. But for smaller children, you just ask them to have their own space, clear up the thing, buy their own small cupboard or small, you know, stand. Let them be there. And then the other one, A, B, C, D. I think you have to do that. You have to organize them. You have to systemize it for them because they're children. They don't know how to
so
do
you
it,
see hoarding as something we could
overcome. You have to reevaluate your values, kan? Kita
Right.
semua, I think,
that's the mentality. Kita ada barang, bila dia dah rosak, dia dah tak cantik, baru kita bagi orang. Tapi in Australia, in US, when they do this yard sale or what do you call that?
Garage sale.
Garage sale.
You know, they actually sell the good things that are still in good condition at a very, very low price. Very low price.
Oh, macam benda Jepun.
So they're really willing to let go things, you know? Yeah.
And they have a lot of thrift shop here as well. And also in the supermarket where they have bin, you know, where you can put your clothes that you don't want, the toys that you don't want, everything. But of course here people are very civic conscious. The toy section, they'll put the toy. The bin cloth section, they put. If in Malaysia you put that, they'll throw all their rubbish there, you know.
Yes.
Yes.
Malaysians are not civil conscious. I think this is also one area they have to develop lah.
Okay, doctor. What about neighborhood?
Why we have this kind of mentality? Is it because of our living environment?
Our living environment?
This kind of mentality,
or our
the hoarding
education?
and everything.
I think.
Yeah. What do you think caused this type of mentality, though?
So there's so many factors, you know, like this civic consciousness. How do we develop civic consciousness among the youth and among the adults? Because a lot of adults are also responsible for throwing out the durian skin from their car and all that, you know. I've seen it myself. They travel, then they go to a picnic spot. They go to a picnic spot, and all the bottles, the rubbish, they just leave there.
Yeah.
Why can't they bring a plastic bag, put everything, and throw it at home? Why can't they? You can't argue with them because they get very upset. Like overseas, if you try and throw anything wrongly, the people there will ask you, you know, why do you do that? Please throw it in the proper place. Here in Malaysia, if you see one cik abang throw things in the wrong place, you say, cik, tolong ikut kan? They will scold you, you know. So I don't know. We have to develop civic consciousness in all our lives.
Doctor, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, doctor, these flats that we have right now,
Yeah.
back in maybe 20, 25 years ago, was actually made for small families. As far as
Right.
I'm concerned,
Right.
I remember, I remember those days, and when I visit my relatives and friends in Singapore, they live in flats as well, but they live alone or they live as a couple. So, how if we are going to change this policy, like in terms of the size of these flats, how will it affect our, system, the whole system itself, like the way we actually plan our families, today. So we can't actually give these 2 bedroom flats anymore to big families. And how do you think will affect the way our economic planning, our in Malaysia?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a few decades ago, they know that the family is big, okay? And then the government introduced family planning and all that. But the big family has continued, not because of family planning, but because of our religious belief, right? This is one factor which is very hard to overcome, that you shouldn't have more than 3 children because it's very, very difficult to educate them, give them opportunity. But people won't listen. They say this is a gift from God. How can we stop? So how can I argue people like that, right? So now, for the big families, I think you still need to build some bigger apartments for them. But I think the policy to have 2 or 3 children has to be strictly implemented now. Although in the past, they have built this for smaller families, but they're not taking account of the family size at that time. So with this kind of mistake, we have to change the policy of family planning and all that as well.
Right.
And to educate family to have smaller families. But even if the family is small, 2 or 3, you still need a bigger apartment, low-cost apartment than it is now. Make it more lesser for people to live in lower-cost apartments.
In some countries, doctor, they have this apa dipanggil children welfare
Council.
council or agency, where they go and inspect houses with problematic children,
Yeah.
and then they'll see the living conditions. And to some degree, they will assist in terms of providing a better home for them, and covering some certain costs or giving food coupons and stuff like that. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, you're right.
And in some cases, if the family still fail to provide a comfortable life at home for the children can be taken away from those homes.
The social
welfare.
But in some cases, some injustice is done, kan, because unless the child is beaten and abused and all that, kan, they are taken away from the family, which is very painful for the child as well as for the family.
Right.
So to avoid that, I think the other methods that you mentioned was correct. The social welfare is very strong there because the budget of the social welfare is much bigger than what we have here. You see, our social welfare here is always headed by people who are not, who doesn't have an idea about family development, you put people there, okay, just because she's a woman, and she's properly clad, you put her there as a Ministry of Women Affairs. But you don't understand, people who should be there should have some background on family development, on feminism and all that. So I think they have put wrong people, to me, wrong people at the wrong portfolio, even today. So some people said, like what Hana, you have said, we should have a Ministry of Youth and should have a Ministry of Children or Youth, which I totally agree, because we have a big percentage of children who are neglected, who are abused, who have been killed, who are not properly taken care. I think we have to have it. And I think this ministry should have a strong power, just like overseas, because I don't want our children to continue suffering as it is now, Some children are beaten, they jump out the roof. Some of the neighbors, they hear the children crying, and then the children were starved to death. I mean, this is ridiculous, man. And this is our society. And our society is supposed to be very religious. You have mosque here, you have a temple there, you have Buddhist temple, we have Indian temple, we have churches, we have mosques in every district. But how come our people still remain like this? Why?
Right.
We ever ask ourselves, what is wrong with our values? Why? I always wonder why, you know. And the overseas, they don't have much religious worship, you know. Yet their concern for other people is very strong. Even the police, you know, you call them, or if you are child abused, you call them, they will come and charge the parents. And if you leave your child at 15 years old alone at home, the neighbor report, you can also be arrested. You know that? So these are the rights of children. I think children should have more rights than what we
Do you
have
think
now.
the increasing number of immigrants have probably changed our value to some degree?
No, I think the immigrants don't have much effect on us. I think we are the ones who are the main culprit. If you look at the number of cases in prison, the one who commit real bad crime, these are the locals. The immigrants, they commit only about 15% of our crimes, you know, and that is because their situation is so pressed. You know, people don't give them to go to hospital and all that. Hospitals are expensive, and then they don't have school like the Rohingya kids, and NGO have to set up schools for them. I mean, they are discriminated a lot, I would say, but they don't form the majority of our crime in this country. That's not true. I see the statistics that it's us, you know, it's us Malaysians who commit the crime, not them.
Yes, Doctor. As you mentioned, neighborhood.
I agree also, Doctor.
Yes. As you mentioned, neighborhood. Having a good neighborhood will result in healthy family and personal well-being among children and youth. Do you think we can improve the low-income neighborhood for better growth opportunities?
How?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think all the low-income group, they are very, very busy earning their living, right? Working in factories, taxi drivers, they take odd jobs and all that. You know, very difficult life. So maybe in the low income group, you have people, pensioner, you know, who there are pensioners from the low income group who, instead of wasting their time lecturing to younger people, they can form a small group and say, okay, what shall we do, you know, to improve our surrounding? Maybe we should have gotong royong one day and all that, and then clean up the park, grow more trees. You know, you can grow trees, you know, in the park. But for heaven's sake, the MBPP should also do their work. You know, they come and collect the rubbish every 2 weeks, and then we have to clean our own drain. I mean, we have you know, to clean our own drain. But it's the government agencies themselves. I don't know whether they're overworked or lack of work. So they should also play a main role in providing better facilities for the youth and children of that particular place. Besides that, the residents themselves, who have some time, the older residents who have time, you know, should also provide this kind of service for the young. But our resident mainly at 65, they die off, you know that our lifespan is very short, quality of life. Self-inflicted, you know, like having diabetics. Most of us have diabetics, you know, and then they have high blood pressure, canai every day, nasi lemak every day. You know? So I think we have to change our mindset. We can improve whatever is bad there, but we can improve. Like residents association, they can write to the MBPP and say, we need a ground. We need a ground for playing games. Why not? We need a little space for the children to do skating or to roller skate. Why not? Why you just keep quiet? Tak apalah, kerajaan dah buat gini. No. I think sometimes you have to be dissatisfied, not for your own self, but dissatisfied to improve the life of others. This is how I feel, you know. Always try to improve the life of others. We have only one life in this world, I think.
Yeah.
So let's make it better for a lot of people, including the animals, including cats and dogs.
Any more question, or maybe we can, Doctor, can we open the session for Q&A from the participant, Doctor?
Of course.
Yeah, we would like to welcome.
Yes.
I think, Doctor, if we talk about this issue, the whole idea of social behavior and implications can relate to many things in our areas of life, Doctor. I mean, we could blame the average income structure that people are receiving today also, you know, that is causing the lack of value, the lack of comfort in our house, the lack of ability to provide a better home for our children and stuff like. There's so many things that like I think you mentioned about you know, school condition juga, you know, and mentality, mindset, political conditions. Oh my God, everything. And when you talk about social, anything that we are dealing with every day can be a factor that's causing the way we are living today, Doctor.
And can be improved. I believe we can improve it.
Yeah, we can improve, but it is very overwhelming to change everything at one time. Yeah, Doctor.
Okay.
Even I'm interested in this. When I was back in Australia in 2003, I see this was like 20 years ago, kan?
Yeah, yeah.
And I see how they already practice recycling. Yeah, recycling, like in front of their homes. You have like 3 bins, different color,
Red, yellow,
and
green.
I have the same. I go down, I have to really separate. My neighbor was a police guy, so I better do my role, my part before I get caught by him. So, you know, okay lah, they could do that. And then when I'm back in Malaysia, and we have been talking about recycling for, oh my God, you know, like
Last 20 years, yeah.
God knows how many years, kan, Doctor? Yet,
Yeah.
until today, we are unable to implement this. So who are we to blame? So when we talk about social pressure, social behavior, social implications, at the end of the day, there must be, we have to look at the root of the problem, the cause of the problem. Where is it really coming from? In order for us to really address how we can overcome or mitigate this situation. Yeah, Doctor?
You know, we are afraid of authority and be punished by it. But I think in Singapore, they punish it. I don't agree with the punishment, but I believe in education. But if you don't punish people who just throw their rubbish around, I think you should. And I think for collective good, like traffic rules, if you beat the traffic light or what, you have to be punished. And no such thing as discount at the end of the year.
Finally, our moderating session has come to end. So I will give an opportunity to anyone who would like to ask any question to Dr. Rohana.
Izian tu dah tak tahan tu.
Oh, ada orang nak tanya.
Oh, hello
guys.
Izian. Come in, Izian.
Sila.
Hello everyone. Hello Dr. Rohana.
Hello.
Hello, Izian.
I'm Izian. Okay, so Doctor, regarding the socialized life, which is the main reason why they are intend to discuss about this topic, right? You say that these problems probably happen di dalam society like B40, something like that. But sometimes in terms of socialized life, it's also happen in the family that is rich and have everything. They have their own personal space and they have all the abilities, you know, something like that. So we know that rich people have that kind of thing, but the tendency to be a socialized life, everyone will include themselves. I don't know, maybe because of the problems of family, or they have no time with the parents, or they don't have the nice attitude from the parents or something like that, because they are a rich person. So due to the personal space itself, they have that personal space, but still they involve themselves in that negative social life. I just wonder, in your perspective, Doctor, how can this type of problems for us Malaysian need to avoid? Do you get what I mean, Doctor?
I got what you mean. Yeah, I got.
Yeah.
There are social problems from the upper class as well.
Yes.
Daripada orang-orang kaya, anak-anak orang kaya, orang kaya. But as you said juga, sometimes the parents in seeking wealth, dia pun selalu neglect the family. You know, the father sometimes is too involved with his job, and the mother is also involved in her job or social life. So the children are sometimes left with the nanny or orang gaji, kan. Question. Of course, rich people have their own set of problems. You know, sometimes they don't have problem, but they create themselves, you know, in their mind. Like macam kita kan, kalau kita want to go for holiday, we say okay, we go to holiday in Genting, or we go to mana-mana lah dekat sungai ke. We are very happy, you know. But the rich are not like that. They begin to think, oh, they have this their values is also very competitive. You know, kalau anak orang kaya lain pergi ke Paris this holiday, I must also go, you know. And then I must also mix a certain circle of people. And then we must also, the wives must also mix with Tan Sri, Puan Sri and all that. And then if you go and buy things from Harrods in London, I also must buy things there. And then if I have property overseas, I must have property there also, you know. So these are, I think, more self-created problems that they make. You know, it's no longer bread and butter issue or rice pot issue. The issue now is more the mental setup of these rich people. So for these rich people, which consists of about maybe 10% of society, they do have their own problems as well. And I would say that because of this competition that they have, there's also in the middle class where they want to aspire to be the rich. So what they do, they set up scam scheme now, you know, where they get old women to fall in love with them, and then they say they are all kinds of things. The scam scheme now, you know,
Yeah,
women
definitely.
are scammed very badly, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel that the rich are also very controlled by materialism. This has created their problem. That's why now, if you look at the social problem scale, it is always among the lower class and very few in the upper class. But I must admit, as you said, we have problems in the upper class as well. That's undeniable.
All right. Thank you so much for your
Thank you, Izan.
yeah.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Doctor. You give
I can
me
ask what you
more
want, no
knowledge.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else ada soalan?
Dalam chat box ada soalan,
Ada.
Doktor.
Sarah, come in, Sarah.
Punya kamera.
Malu-malu Sarah.
Yes, madam.
Kan, I think kan, Sarah, I think ada orang yang raise question kan dekat college ni pasal library tak buka for night time. Apa you rasa, Sarah? Dengar tak?
Is it okay for her to express it? After the college might take action against her, no?
Apa? Sebab kita ada
Sekali
kita
lagi
ada
boleh tak, madam?
24 hours, kita ada 24 hours room dekat
I see.
college.
I see.
Tapi it's next to a library. So the library is definitely a bigger space lah. The 24-hour room is a very small class for the student.
For the
So
student, yeah.
what happened is, kan, betul tak Sarah? So because they have a very lack of space in their home, so all of them tend to crowd the 24-hour space during the night, you know.
Yeah.
And the library is only open until 5. So every
Betul.
day. So there is no space for them to study at all because the whole campus is closed. So it's actually okay to address this. We're not condemning anything. We're just trying to if we could, make things better for the students.
So what else, Sarah? You want to ask me about only the
ahead.
college or about the low cost housing as well? Crowded spaces? Okay, Sarah, I think any crowded places is not good for anybody. That is my view. Especially 8 people to a room. I think this is bad lah, quite bad lah. But maybe the colleges are run out of space.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It is bad. This reminds me of workers who come from overseas, and they also put 8 to 10 in a small flat. You know that, kan? Many of the foreign workers are badly housed. And you know what happened? There are 10 of them in a house. 5 will work in the daytime in the factory. 5 will work at night duty. This is how they manage to share their beds, because they have only like tilam and beds. And the bathroom are all overcrowded. So I'm afraid some of the university students are also facing this kind of situation, which I think is the university authority. Something about it. And I'm sure, as you said, as your lecturer said, that when you're confined into a room of 8 people, of course you want to go and find somewhere else where you can study, right?
Yes.
That is a very normal behavior. Who wants to be cooped up 8 people to a room and try and study there? I think it's very difficult. It's very difficult. So this thing have to be overcome, have to change, not only among the students, but among the workers as well. You know, this is like I don't like to say it, but this is like the days of slavery, you know, where workers are brought in and then they're very badly treated. So I hope the students management and all that will see that the students are better treated, so that this have a trickle down effect where even employers, management, like overseas here, will give better treatment to the workers. You know, they will give you two to a room, then you can stay in a farm. You know, where they pluck fruits and all that. They pluck fruits, and then weekend aja, they can go to town and enjoy their life. And then the pay here, if it's 1 hour $50, it's 1 hour $50. There's no playing the fool like the mamak shop last time they've got 1 hour $25. Tak boleh. Sini semua tak boleh. So semua the rules are very strict, and the implementation is also very strict. So if you are cooped up in a room with 8 people, I can understand. You want to get out of it. I can understand. You know.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you, Doctor. So we have another question here from Farzana Christina. Farzana Christina ada tak dalam ni?
Ada.
Farzana
Okay.
Christina, boleh buka mic dengan
Boleh tanya
kamera.
soalan.
Hi, I am Fazana. I have one question to doctor. We can see that nowadays many like problem causing of children abuse. So does the problem of small house can contribute to the cause of children abuse? Because kita tahulah macam adult balik rumah pun penat tengok keadaan sekeliling rumah macam tu apa semua. So what is your opinion about that?
Yeah, I think the space has an effect on child abuse. But you must remember, child abuse is not just pukul, you know, physical abuse. Child abuse could also be maki hamun, you know, could be verbal abuse, could be social abuse as well. Don't mix, don't go out, your friends are all rubbish, you know, what sort of people are you mixing? There's also abuse. And then when you come back from the office, you're so tired, you know, and you see your children. So maybe you don't want to wall up them or pukul them. And then you begin to have verbal abuse. Verbal abuse, the words that you use against the child, have an effect on the self-esteem of the child. You say, alah, tak mandi, aku tak baca buku, tak berguna punya anak, apa jadi, tak kotor. You know that this have an effect, a very strong impact on the child. So besides physical abuse, which happens, you know, they roll up the child, you know, when you send to the babysitter and the child don't want to come back and all that. The child was starved to death by the boyfriend and they die and all that. Whenever I read this, I feel very sad, you know. I feel like walloping the perpetrator, but this thing continues. So you remember, Christina, the abuse can be many forms. Okay, besides the physical abuse, which you can see, which also have effect later on in their life, they can also resort to violence outside. You also have psychological and verbal abuse. These are also very dangerous because it not only affect your worldview, but it also affect your self-esteem. You tahu tak, banyak kanak-kanak from the working class, from the bottom, have very low self-esteem. You know, this low self-esteem will make you perform badly in school, will also allow you to go to peers who accept you because your peer will not scold you like your father or your mother. Nak kata anak tak guna. The peer will say, oh tak apa, kita pergi naik isapit, you feel better. Okay, jom kita naik motorbike, kita belajar. So you see, abuse comes in many forms. But I think verbal and psychological abuse is very, very important. It will stay with you throughout your life. Because even when you grow up, like now you're 20, 21, right? Everything you see, you can always remember what you experienced, you know. So I'm not good enough lah, tak boleh lah, tak boleh buat ni, apa. My mother said, I cannot lah, you know. So you refer back to your childhood. So I think this is very dangerous. A lot of parents don't realize it. A lot of school don't realize it. Because when I was in school, some of my friends got dyslexia, you know, at that time we don't know about dyslexia, about inability to learn and all that. So the teachers at that time always tell my friends, you know, apa ni, what is, you can't even read at this age, can't you do science project? And they say that you will come to nothing lah. So you will come to nothing. They tell that to my friends, you know, those who are not so good at their work lah. I'm not good either lah, but lucky I didn't get such scolding lah. But my friends get it. You come to nothing in your life. How can you say that to a child? But my friends, they become something in their life. They become teachers. They become bus drivers. These are something. Even if you're a bus driver, you're contributing to society.
So doktor, in this
Oh,
situation
doktor.
kan, if parents dah stress and then children pula macam tu, so how do we build a resilient youth? Macam siapa yang bertanggungjawab nak membentuk youth ni? Sebab kalau dah rumah pun macam tu.
School punya tu. Yeah, you know in school kita ada counselor but it's only career counselling kan. We don't have enough counselors to go around, you know. We don't have counselors to do servicing in low-cost apartments and all that. And our ratio of people to counselors are also very low, you know. So I think one is we need counselors, more counselors, where the child or the parents can go and talk. I think there's besides counseling, I think we also need the buddy system. I'm sure you're familiar with this buddy system,
Yes.
where you have
Yes.
an older person who's good in character and all that to mix with the youth and show them a certain way of life, you know. But you have to be very careful of this buddy system because some of the buddies are also having problems of their own. So I think besides counseling, more counselors in our society, the buddy system, and also we have form groups, social and NGO or social groups among yourself to be able to talk like it's not quality circle or book club or where you read one book a week and come and discuss. That one also can help you to develop your mind, you know. Okay, adik-adik, you baca satu buku ni, esok minggu depan you tell us what you read. So in that way, you also develop interest in reading. And then you have also like counseling groups. You have one counselor there, you bring those with problems, come adik-adik, we discuss today apa masalah dekat rumah, bukan apa mak bapak bukan tak baik, tapi apa masalah dengan adik, you know. So you're able to, so that they have someone where they can trust and they can talk. So I think these are very important steps that we can take within our environment now.
Okay, doctor, we have another question. Is it okay?
Sure,
Ili,
sure.
come.
Amy, is it Amy? Okay.
Hi,
Amy, yeah.
doctor. So, doctor, I have one question. It's because I have read somewhere on Twitter about the very strict parents yang invaded their child's personal space. They have their own room, they have their own personal space, but the parents doesn't allow them to close their doors, lock their doors, and even some parents put CCTV inside their children's room. Because they are afraid that their children will do something bad ataupun benda yang tak elok lah. So if they growing up rebellious, can we blame the parents, the children lah? Boleh tak kita blame the parents? Or how do we educate the parents to be better? Sebab sometimes orang tak tahu yang they invaded their children personal space. They think that it's normal, they are just being a parent yang care about their children. So what is your opinion, doctor?
Yeah, I think parents fall into many categories as well. There are some parents who are very, very controlling. That's one. There are some parents who are very narcissistic. They only want their way all the time. You know narcissism?
Yes.
The only thing of themselves, my way. And there's some parents who are OCD, you know, obsessive compulsive disorder. Everything must be their way. So you should see children. I mean, I'm glad you have your personal space, which is good. But children must also be taught to negotiate with the parents. Okay, what are you watching? Are you watching the dark web, which is very dangerous? Are you going on online dating, which is dangerous? Are you talking to a pedophile through pornography and all that? So you have to have a conversation with your child. You just cannot put CCTV in your child's room. How would they feel if they have CCTV in their room? So sometimes these parents, because they cannot let go that the child is growing up. The child from childhood, right? When you are below 10, you always ask your parents, apa ni? Because you are dependent. So everything you want to eat, so you ask them, what is blue color nice? Is this dress? But when you reach adolescent, you want your own personal space. Because at that time, you are seeking your own identity.
Right.
You know, your identity, your peer group identity, your peer group your opinion and all that. So if you get parents who cannot let go of that stage of childhood, you know, they cannot see that the child is growing. So they keep on wanting to control the child. Of course, when the child becomes a teenager, you have a lot of your own needs, a lot of your own moods. Of course, you get angry with your parents. You can't blame them for being rebellious, you know. Of course, you become rebellious. If your parents say blue, you say green, kan? So when you come to that stage, I think a counselor has to step in or to negotiate between parents and children. Because some children, the moment they reach 18 or 16 or 17, the moment they get work, they run away from the house. And there are also children who run away from the house often. And then they get trafficked by gangsters and all that. So this is a very real question. You see, it's a middle class. This is a very middle class issue where the personal space of the child is invaded by the parents. And I think parents too need parenting skills, Yeah, true. We tend to control your children, I feel that way too. But there's one way that you must always bring up your children to become independent of you, not independent on you all the time. You must allow them to grow. Of course, with them you will have no more control, right? No. But that is growing up.
Saya letak assignment tu. I put this invitation.
Thank you.
I know the rebellious children, I know.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think I relate so much with that as well. So I do hear. I mean, yeah, I mean, we as parents, we learn, we were not born to be parents also. So we learn over time what is good and what is not, to some degree. And of course, the worry, we really cannot put aside the worry, we cannot lie to ourselves that we are not worried about our children out there, So I think Dr. Hana made a good point there. I think it is important for us to have a good communication between parents and children. How do we as parents allow children to be able to tell us their concern, itu yang I think that's the major problem, our children are just so afraid to express.
And they're afraid of the teachers as well. In Malaysia, we are very frightened of our teachers and lecturers,
Alah, doktor takut ai. Dia orang semua takut dengan ai, doktor.
Mana dia takut? Mana ada?
Puncanya
Takut lagi kat sebenarnya.
I understand.
You takut dengan ai?
Takut semua.
Not all lecturers lah, but this hierarchy is still very steep between lecturers and students in the university as well. They tend to look up as though the lecturers know everything. We shouldn't be. You must be able to express yourself. But this inability to express yourself is geared from primary school to secondary school to your home, in your home itself. You are not allowed to express what you want to say nicely. So when you go to university, you also think that way, kelas cakap salah, maaf like lecturer ni. But actually no, you can express yourself properly. Not maki hamun like in the YouTube lah, some of them, all the foul, dirty letter words. I don't agree with that. You can say nicely, make your point clear, and see what is their negotiation with you.
Interesting you mentioned that now, doctor. We talk about social media as another alternative space for us to express ourselves. And Malaysians, they love to throw their, personal
netizen.
Then apa dia punya personal sentiments, in public, and I noticed this is becoming dulu kita talk about keyboard warrior, pop, throwing stuff on, but now because we have access to live, we go on live, we bash here, we bash there, we bash this person, how do we control this phenomena, it's just out of control, it seems.
I don't know, I think the ministry and the people who are in the media have to learn to control it. For instance, I'm not saying China is the greatest country in the world, but China prevents some media like Google. I think you can't Google in China or Facebook. I'm not sure. So I think the government has a role to play to downsize this anger, the anger and frustration of these youth. Not youth. I think there are also adults who only look at negativeness in the social media. The other thing I don't quite agree with, always relating on social media, is that we lose our sense of friendship, interpersonal friendship. We only have friends through the media, through the Facebook, for instance. And sometimes people in Facebook can create all kinds of persona, right? So I think we must not lose the human touch. I think it's very important.
Yeah. I think your good friend Dr. Rachel is also here. Hi, Dr. Rachel. Is she still in the link? Doctor, come and say hi.
Hi. Where's Rachel? Yeah.
Yeah. Hello. Oh, she probably have class. Okay. Do we have any question lagi from the floor? Ada siapa nak tanya soalan?
I have a question.
Yes. Come in.
Hello, Doctor. I am
Hello.
Rahina. I have a question. So, what do you think about depression people who live in low-cost house with other friends? So, how we can handle this problem?
Depression?
You're depressed, right? This is very difficult because depression, either you go to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, which is very difficult. Because the moment you go and see a psychologist, you have to pay because hospital has very little psychologists. You go and see a psychiatrist, they say you're mad. The Malaysians always have this very backward mentality. The moment you go to see a doctor trained in psychiatry, they think you're mad. You know, so people with depression, I think, should talk to someone. The normal cure that they give to you now, I mean the normal method is they give you tablets, medicine, chemistry, you know. You can deal, if it is chemically induced, your depression, the tablets can help to some extent. But if it's social factor that cause the depression, it can never help. Who are you to tell? Let's say I take the medicine, then I can feel a bit sleepy, but I still have my problems around me. So social problem cannot be handled with medicine. This is how I feel. So you need to talk to a counselor, to a buddy, to a friend. But be careful of the friends you choose because this friend will indulge your secret to somebody else.
Right.
So make sure you have a good friend who will understand and will not divulge your depression to others. But you need to talk to someone. Otherwise, it gets worse, you know. Your depression will become like a cycle, it gets worse and worse and worse. So you have to be careful of that. Talk to someone.
Doctor, I don't know how relevant this is, but I also read somewhere on how some government, they try to inject a certain kind of, any types of ideology or a certain kind of ideology into their people. And then if the people is not in agreement with them, and then they created this sort of like scam or putting certain group of people, for example, especially youth lah, because youth are known to be rebellious lah, or against, for example, cases like in Iran right now, with the women's right and all that, and then they start like drugging this group of people. I'm not blaming Iran in this case, yeah, but what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, the government who holds the biggest power, they can actually inject this kind of ideology or sentiments into the people, into how they want to shape the way the country should be run. Okay. As a citizen, or as a someone who lives in we are just rakyat biasa kan orang kata. How can we play a role to change this, Doctor? Like how big of a role can we actually, apart from you I think in your introduction we did say you got involved in being an activist and all that. So how far can activists play a role in changing this whole idea of running a government?
Activists and NGO, we have a role to play, but not very effective unless we get into the government. Just like in the Western countries where NGOs and all that have candidates like the Green Party and they get into parliament. But for us, it's very difficult because of our political system. But as you said just now, Iran, and there's also a video on Canada where they pull the hijab of that girl and all that. So people are very upset. The Muslims are very upset. How can you do this to the hijab girl? But at the same time, you get killed in Iran when you don't wear the hijab properly.
Yes.
So these two extreme ends, one on this one end, westernized, one on the other end, wear hijab and all that. I think it's wrong. This is cultural imperialism. You know, if you're interested, read on cultural imperialism. All the time, we have been talking about economic imperialism. The US sends arms to Australia, to Papua New Guinea, and China sending economic aid to Africa, where they cannot pay them later and they can build their base. They send the Chinese people there. So these are a superpower system, right? So to me, these two extreme government, I think we have to take a more moderate line. You know, even in Islam, in Buddhism, say take a moderate line. You take a moderate line, where I think it's wrong to put people in camps, you know, camps and indoctrinate them and all that. But if you feel that they are a threat to your society, they start bombing left and right, kill people, then you have the right to put them in camps and re-educate them, try and re-educate them and see why they do the violent act in the first place. So if you resort to violent act, you're not going to solve a lot of problems. Or keeping people in camps for a certain period, unless you kill people, you know, that is very important. You have to keep them away from the society. I think that is acceptable. But if you're going to keep them forever and ask people to follow your ideology, and the government is powerful to create camps for these people, then I think it's wrong. That's why we shouldn't have a very all-powerful government. That's why in the West, they have changes, you know, from conservative government to Labour. Labour is pro-people. Conservative is pro-corporate. So they have changing always, you know. But in our society, we have the same government over and over again, neoliberal, you know, what they do, what they want. And then in Islamic society, all torn by war and all that, they're also very authoritarian. So it all boils down to the type of system and the political system and the power of the politician that is important. So if you want to fight all this, of course you can go to the NGO like what I've been doing all my years of life, which is not very effective, I think. But you still can do it, you know. Try. To me, you just try, you know. Whether you fail or not, you don't be disappointed if you don't win, or you don't succeed. You'll be disappointed. Keep on trying until your last breath. That's what I feel. That's why now I'm in the SCI. I still feel that I have a role to play until maybe I cannot walk one day, or you know, I don't know, kan?
So, what are the activities do you do with SCI, Doctor?
Oh, SCI, besides trying to create educational program for the youth online for you, I'll get some of these wonderful youth to help me with the posters.
Okay, no problem.
Online program and also face-to-face program.
Okay.
We are also, what we do in SCI, besides creating peace or whatever you want to call it, which is quite impossible with American aggression and all, but we still try in a way. In the past, we have collected money through the selling of tables. We called it Love Charity Dinner. And this charity dinner, in which I help to raise fund with a group of my friends, what we do is sell tables.
Okay.
And then one table is 1,003. And then out of this 1,003, whatever money we collected, let's say we collect about 50,000, 50 tables. Half of the fund will go to kanak-kanak cacat, kanak-kanak OKU, rumah orang tua, Cheshire home for the blind and all that. So half the collection goes to the marginalized group. And half the collection goes to the organization to fund their activities over the year. And this year, in June, we also raising fund again, selling of stalls, makan stalls. So one stall is 500. So we got 500 tickets, 50 tickets. So we sell the tickets. Whoever get the ticket can go to any of the makan shop to makan lah, atau beli apa-apa lah dengan duit tu. Dan dari itu kami dapat fund juga lah kan, dapat 500. So if we raise 20,000, again 10,000 will go to the needy. 10,000 will go to the organization. That's what I'm involved in.
And this
now,
SCI is based in Malaysia lah, Doctor?
They got 2 chapters. One in Kuala Lumpur, which I have the number and all that. One in Penang. We have 2 chapters here.
Oh, so this is SCI.
Not CSI, CSI. I like CSI.
So SCI, they focus on Malaysian lah, because I hear the word international. I thought they are like based all over, you know.
It's all over. This organization came into existence after the Second World War, where German attacked France, attacked everywhere. So the villages are all burned down and all that. So this
Oh,
SCI was formed in New Zealand, I think, no, Switzerland, in which a group of
oh,
people and a group of volunteers went to France to rebuild the village. They rebuilt
oh.
many things. So they rebuilt. They do
During
good
the
work
Holocaust lah ni, Doctor.
after the Holocaust.
After the Holocaust, okay.
So I mean, they have good intentions lah. I feel they
Right.
have intentions lah.
So we are
Okay,
we brought the concept in Malaysia lah by having this run
no,
by.
they opened the concept quite long, about 20 years ago. I just joined because I feel that in a small way I can help, you know.
So how do we get involved with the program?
I can send you the name of the person in KL.
Okay.
Stephen Ngah, his name. And he might need young people like you all to come and help start the program running, you know, and raise fund for the poor. Okay, you can. I can text all this to Afiq, whatever info you want, or to you, I can give you the phone number.
That sounds fun.
If
Yeah.
any of you
maybe
are from
we
Penang,
can join.
please come and meet me, yeah. Any of you from Penang, ada?
Ada. Siapa ada Penang?
Tak ada.
Tak ada.
Penang, ask them to meet me.
Oh, ada Rahimah.
Ada, Raima.
Come and meet me one
boleh.
day so we can help each other, you know.
Yeah, kan?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we have time for one or two more questions before we wrap up the session, yeah, Doctor?
Yeah, sure.
We have a question from Aisyah Khairiyah.
Aisyah nak buka kamera ke macam mana? So just now ada juga yang masuk and then they had terkeluar and then ada yang ada kelas in between. So that's why we're having a plus and minus participant right now. Ada yang nak tanya tadi tapi dah terpaksa pergi kelas pula. Anyway, yang lain yang ada soalan tu boleh buka kamera lah. Siapa?
Aisyah.
Hello, madam.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Where are you? Which one are you?
Cuba buka.
My name is Aisyah.
Oh, your name is Aisyah.
Hi, Aisyah.
Hi, Aisyah. Yeah, Aisyah.
Okay. Hello, doctor. Is it a concern if a teenager always keeps their bedroom door locked?
Yeah, I think it's a concern. Why do they always lock their door? I mean, sekali-sekali you nak baca, you nak tengok YouTube, all you close lah kan. Tapi if you forever close your door, that means you're cutting off your relationship with your parents or with other siblings. And I don't think it's very healthy because you need them, you need to mix with them, you need to socialize with them, you need to carry responsibility of the house with them. So don't lock yourself in. If you lock yourself in, that means you're isolating yourself. And I think there is a problem here. There is a problem. Why, you know, why do you lock yourself?
Okay, I hope that answered the question.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
Welcome.
Okay. Ada lagi ke? Kalau tak ada, kita boleh wrap up the session.
Ada lagi nak tanya soalan?
Tak ada, takut.
Tak ada, okay. So, kita boleh teruskan ke sesi yang seterusnya.
Doctor, I hope we have covered the things that was discussed earlier, Doctor. If you feel like there is anything else we should add, please do let us know.
Sure. I think there's personal space, outer space, and cultural, the surroundings, cultural values, we have covered quite a bit, I think.
Quite a bit, yeah. Okay, so I guess now we can get the moderators to sums up the whole discussion. Inshallah, if they have all the points ready. Do you need time? Okay, so let's bring in the moderators to wrap up the session. Thank you very much, Dr. Hana, for today's session. But we have a closing sekejap lagi. Thank you.
Okay,
moderator, silakan.
Okay, thank you, host, and thank you, Dr. Madam. Thank you also, Dr. Hana. Alhamdulillah, I think I got a lot of info, idea about our issue, and I think the
to overcome this issue and everything, I think we need to get to the root of the issue, like the education system, public stigma, Malaysians mindset, and we should be loud with our own voice to improve our life and others' life also, and improve animal study.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I get a lot, seriously. So we should be able to express ourselves also.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's all from me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Any more? Okay.
Can you hear me?
I think Hana, you need to turn off your camera in order for you to stop the lagging now.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for this. Thank you, Doctor, again to give us a lot of information that we hear. So the one that I can comment is banyak sangat faktor yang menyebabkan kita punya physical, mental, jasmani kita, harmoni kita untuk youth development ni. So saya dapat banyak maklumat yang bukan sahaja kita yang teenager je yang kena ambil report, bukan. Consider benda ni, tapi the parents, the lecturer, the teacher also.
Yeah.
So maybe in the future, I hope I can able to buy a house and provide a decent place to my children. To,
InsyaAllah.
InsyaAllah. Untuk diorang menjadi manusia. Okay.
Sure, you can.
Hana.
I hope I can lah.
Okay, next, in my opinion, thank you to Dr. Noor Hana for a lot of experiencing in personal space. In my work session, the previous study find that Malaysian adolescents are at risk of developing mental health problem if they live in a small and crowded house, as it is one of the major factors associated with delinquent behavior such as snatch, thief, and illegal racing. Next, a healthy space. Those booths provide comfort to the users and allow them to arrive physically, mentally, and socially. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I also do a little bit of a wrap up session? You know, all the takeaways from our discussion today. I know, Doctor, this is a very heavy topic lah for my student because they're coming from tourism management. For them to suddenly being asked to research on the construction space, the construction the social construction of space ni Doctor, it's a bit heavy for them lah. I remember when I was in the States, I took this course named Social Construction of Space by Professor Helene Silverman. So I truly enjoy this. There, I actually learned that space is not only about our home, it's also about how we make do of our environment. And interestingly, today we managed to discuss about how people are making use of social media as personal space. They are constructing that as personal space as well. So it is one space that we find comfortable in expressing our feelings or our thoughts, you know. And of course, there are many advisors that are being put into telling us, you know, you don't throw out your tantrums, your personal thoughts, personal feelings too much on social media because it can actually come back to you. And I have to agree with this. I think today Dr. Hana has brought to us that new theory. I am sorry, I really don't know how to pronounce the word, but it's like the GNG theory, which I find very intriguing for me to go and check further. And I think this whole idea about our home being a place for an adequate growth development for our individual, our professional development, our personal development is very important because we spend most of our time in our life there, you know. And whatever level age group that you are in, you will be constructing more different personal space in your life, and you will actually be introduced to different spaces as you move or you transit to a different level of life, like getting married and then having children,
Sure.
you know, or while you are being one right now, you know. And the school system as well plays a big role when we talk about social theory or social development. When we talk about social studies, we are really, it's a broad idea, Doctor. I'm sure you being a social science researcher, it's endless to discuss about. Am I glitching, guys?
Yes.
Yes, madam,
Yeah.
you're teaching.
Okay, let me hang on. Give me.
Okay.
Okay. Am I back? Am I okay? Am I okay now?
Okay, madam.
Okay. Yeah, where was I? So, you know, so I think it is important for everybody to understand the whole idea about social construction of space in our life. And for my students, I truly believe this is a new experience. The new is very eye-opening, lah. You know, it's very eye-opening. Suddenly it's making them think. In fact, there were a lecturer tadi pun, she joined this particular talk because she hear, wow, like I've never come across this topic before in my life. Because you know, doctor, in tourism punya studies, we focus on planning, you know, development. We rarely we look at social behavior of tourists, of travelers, but we don't personally focus on individual, on society in that matter. You know, we look at residential, but in Malaysia, our education system, kita kadang-kadang we fail to connect those little field of interest to the mainstream theories. So we're not sure where we belong at the end of the day. Like kita question, I think my student always question, tourism ni sebenarnya should be part under business or under sociology or under you know, architecture or under anthropology and stuff like that. So they fail to connect to a particular theory in order to make sense of the system that they are in. So I think doing this topic today is an eye-opening for them. Oh, okay. So I see that whatever we are today is the result of this whatever we're discussing today. You know, doctor. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank you because I think even I was exposed to this topic before, I did not imagine I would be teaching or bringing in this topic into my students' webinar today. So thank you to Doctor, because I did have a very brief conversation with Doctor, and we sort of like agree that we're going to look at this theory on, you know, just the surface of it, because we do not want you to suddenly get into all those difficult theories that you're probably not familiar with. I think whatever we discuss today is fairly, you know, adequate for a basic understanding of what a personal space should mean in our life. I hope I did justice to my takeaways from today's discussion. That's the best I can say. And because I am already speaking, I'm just going to give my closing remarks. Yeah. So I would like to take this opportunity again to thank all the participants for being with us today, and for Doctor to make time even though you are actually away on a holiday, Doctor. So when will you be back to Melbourne, Doctor? To KL, sorry.
12 middle of February. So I should be there.
So that's a long holiday.
Yeah, I have to see a few people here. That's a problem.
Okay. And I would like to congratulate to my student hosts. I think they've done a tremendous work in doing publicity for this topic. Memang diorang betul-betul promote lah, Doctor, this topic. So everybody is like, this is the only topic they feel it's not like directly related to their field of studies in tourism.
Yeah.
But then in terms of personal development, because that's what they are doing with me, the course that they're doing is on personal and professional development. This topic is very much related. So kudos to them for taking the challenge to do research on this topic. Okay, so I would like to also take this opportunity to tell everyone that we have another 7 PD Talk series coming up tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning, and on Sunday at 8 p.m. at night. Okay, so please stay healthy, because we still need you to come and learn with us. And I have truly enjoyed the session today. Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. But before I pass the session to my host to do the closing, I would like to invite Dr. Rohana. Sikitlah, Doctor, give a few words of wisdom. You know, you are very much adored by my student. They really see you as an inspiration. So maybe some words of advice, and maybe how you feel about today's topic. Yeah, Doctor.
I'm glad you invited me to give a talk, and I'm very impressed with the way they organize it, the montage, everything, you know. But I just want the student to know that learning is a lifelong process, and we are brought into this world with one life, with certain lifespan. And during this period, I think we do our best to help other people. Because I think helping other people is not helping them, but also helping yourself to develop into a better person. So if you have the time, others, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's small or big, whether it's material or non-material. But just like somebody who asked me about depression, I think that depressed person should have someone to talk with. And I think it's very important, this human relation. So, but never give up hope. Always struggle and try to do your best. Thank you.
Okay, that's all from us. I would like to apologize for any mistake that happened during this program, and I hope that the knowledge shared by our panel is utilized and everyone becomes more aware of this issue. Thank you for joining us. Okay, everyone, before going out, we have a photo session for all the participants here. Technician, get ready, please.
Page 1, everybody smile. 1, 2, smile. Okay, now page 2. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Page 2. Smile. Are you all ready? 1, 2. Smile. Okay. All right. So with that, we have come to the end of our session. Thank you so much, Dr. Rohana. I will stay in touch with you. And thank you so much to all of you for being here today. So you can continue with your classes now. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We apologize for all the lacking, for all the wrongdoings, for all the mistakes that we have done. Yeah. Inshallah. We'll see you very soon. Bye.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.